Welcome to the podcast. My name is Christian.
I'm Connor.
I'm Meha. In this podcast, we will be talking about the philosophy of ethics, specifically in its application to Into the Wild by Jon Krakauer. Connor will be giving us a brief summary of the biography.
Yeah, let's go, Connor.
Into the Wild takes the form of a non-fiction biography that follows the adventures and ultimate misfortune of Chris McCandless, a young man attempting to find purpose and freedom in an unconventional way. Due to Chris's frustration and disconnection from society, he makes the bold decision to abandon his worldly possessions, his money, his personal identity, to take an adventure outside of his comfort zone. Following years of searching his soul, Chris winds up in the Alaskan frontier. Challenged both mentally and physically, the Alaskan wilderness ultimately takes the life of Chris McCandless.
Thank you so much, Connor, for such an amazing summary. So, what are we gonna do next, Maya?
Let's start by talking about his decision of going to Alaska. Do you guys think it was an ethical decision to go to Alaska?
What do you think, Christian?
Well, I personally think that his decision of going to Alaska. Sorry. Well, it is in fact ethical. Well, he wanted to escape society because he simply was not happy in the environment he was living in. He went on his venture to find his inner self and purpose for living. Okay, so here's an interesting quote. His life hummed with meaning and purpose, but the meaning he wrested from existence lay beyond the comfortable path. McCandless distrusted the value of things that came easily. He demanded much of himself, more in the end than he could deliver. So this quote's very interesting, and we can see that McCandless went to Alaska to follow his dreams. His trip was meaningful because he found purpose in his life and was able to find himself through his strong connection he made with nature.
Yeah, I think it is really important to remember that nature played a really motivating role in his entire decision to leave home. I think specifically something this reminds me of, especially in something that I could relate it to, is from a framework of ethical decision making by Santa Clara University. I think if you think about the answering the question in the virtue approach, which is which option in terms of decision making, which option leads me to act as the sort of person I want to be. If you're taking Chris's choice to go to Alaska through this framework, it's obviously an ethical choice. People are going to be negatively impacted by it, undoubtedly. His whole family. He's this charismatic, intelligent kid. He makes important relationships all throughout his life. But I think it was ethical just because he's not making a choice to hurt other people. He's making a choice to better himself in his own eyes.
I also agree with that, but I personally think we could look at another side from it. So I think that his decision of going to Alaska is actually unethical.
What?
Because he didn't really care about the feelings of the people around him. He himself didn't think he would die in the process, but he evaluated it wrong and impacted everyone around him. So there's two approaches that I saw in the framework of thinking ethically. One is the utilitarian approach, and the other is a fairness and justice approach. And out of the two approaches, I think the fairness and justice approach is the most applicable to it. The fairness and justice approach says that all equals should be treated equally, but in his decision of going to Alaska, he did not treat everyone equally. He believed that the pursuing of his ideals and dreams were more important than the well-being of his family and friends.
Good point.
We'll be right back after a quick word from Artlist.
This podcast is made possible with the help of Artlist. Artlist is a membership-based music licensing platform that grants you unlimited access to their entire copyrighted music library once you pay the annual fee. Whether you're trying to become a creator on YouTube or just someone that posts cool videos on Instagram and Snapchat, Artlist is definitely your best companion. So what are you waiting for? Quickly sign up now and receive the free trial.
Welcome back to our podcast. So I'm going to bring up our next topic of discussion, which is how Chris McCandless used other people, specifically by making false promises, which were very unethical. I personally think the way that he carelessly and selfishly tore through people's lives, always in search of his own goals, was actually highly unethical. People were kind enough to offer him assistance and lodging at different points through his journey. But truly, because of his drive to fulfill his own goals, the relationships actually seemed really strategic and manipulative. What do you guys think about this?
Yeah, I think in large part I do agree with you. I think that it's tough to justify, the manipulation of people around him, specifically when the people around him really, their only hope is just to provide him with help and some guidance. So, I agree that it's pretty unethical. I think specifically with the fact that he knew. I mean, he knew in part that there was a large possibility that he would die. I mean, if you think about that last letter that he writes to Wayne, where he references, if this adventure proves to be fatal and you don't ever hear from me again, I want you to know that you're a great man, and now I walk into the wild. And so he had some idea of the dangers of this path. So I think to make those promises of coming back to different people who impacted him in his journey, I mean, specifically his family, especially his little sister, and they all had complete faith that he would come back, and he jeopardized that, and he hurt a lot of people. So yeah, I think you're right. What do you think, Christian?
Well, I think you two got really good points, but I feel like he's like making promises. It's pretty unethical because I feel like throughout the entire trip, he believes he'll be okay. He's so confident in his ability to go anywhere. He literally lives on the south for a month or something, so he's confident in himself. And when he making all the promises and talking to all the people, he's expecting himself to come back from Alaska. Even before he dies, he put out that sign that says, "I need your help. I'm injured." He wants to be alive. He wants to go back to those people and just fulfill his promises.
Yeah.
So I think decision is pretty ethical. There's nothing wrong with it.
You think so?
Yeah.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
Betrayal.